To start this project out, I'm starting with a piece of cedar picket fence, a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, and a cross that I've printed out on the printer. I just put this in Microsoft Word, put a cross on there, and printed it out to fill up the whole page. I'm going to go outside with some spray-on adhesive and glue this page onto the plywood. Next up is cutting out the cross. You can use a jigsaw, you can use a scroll saw, or even your bandsaw. I didn't feel like changing out the blade on my bandsaw. It usually stays with this resaw blade, and I just cut one at a time. If you do need to back out of a cut while using a bandsaw, just do so slowly and you'll be fine. I next needed to figure out the sizes of each of my pieces of the cedar board that I was going to cut. I measured a little bit over the width of the cross and measured that out and marked it out so I can make a quick cut there. And then figured out that I wanted about 1.08 inches for each of these stripes in the flag. Don't forget to check your blade and your miter saw for square because you really want these as straight as possible. For this part, you will need some kind of a stop block so you can make repeated cuts for each of your stripes. I'm cutting these the long way, and then we'll cut each stripe out individually after that. I cut the 2 horizontal stripes for the cross first, since those were the easiest, and then went on to the rest of the cross, the vertical part. And this is where I had to do some thinking on how I was going to cut this safely, because if I just use the stop block, then the pieces moved as I try to move them across the saw. That's when I went and grabbed the painter's tape and just taped it all together. So now it's back into one big block and I can cut all the pieces out safely. Now these pieces are so tiny that there was no way that I was going to take these to the router table to put a 45-degree angle on the edges. So I just took my tiny block plane right here and just took off a couple swipes of each of the corners. As you can see here, you don't want to try to go across the grain as it will tear out the ends. Just go back later with sandpaper and take off those sharp corners. But don't do me. I totally forgot to do it. I got distracted by kids and then came back and decided to paint and had forgotten to sand those edges down. Remember, when you're painting something like this, you don't want to paint the edges that will be glued, so I'm only doing the ends that will be visible, and all the glue edges I am leaving plain so they will glue up properly. I did forget that the top of the horizontal pieces of the cross will be visible, so I had to go back later and paint some of that, and just left the middle raw without paint on it. I'm using a little bit of CA glue here to help this set up more quickly. You can use any kind of clamps to clamp this piece together. I just went ahead and got the parallel clamp so I had a little bit more coverage. I really wanted to make sure that this was going to be flat, as I'm going to put it on the CNC, and if there's any inconsistencies in the wood, in the thickness, then it's going to have lots of issues and will not cut out straight. I'm gluing this section on first and using the square to make sure everything is consistent and straight, and just weighing it down for a little bit before I go and put all the vertical pieces on. I didn't want to wait for this to dry, so as I glue this on, I'm also using the pin nailer and stapler from Woodworking to tack everything down. The nails aren't going in quite all the way, so I went and grabbed the nail punch and put those in a little bit further. Again, I really want this to be as even as I can once I put it on the CNC so everything comes out correctly. If you do not have a CNC, you can still do this by doing what in the card industry they call fussy cutting. And I just printed this out on printer paper. I think cardstock would be better, and use an X-Acto knife and cut out the font. And then I realized, oops, I forgot to cut out the rest of the O. And then you can just take this and spray paint your words right on your cross. For the final touches, I took a piece of leather and the wood starter stapler and put this on the back so it could be hung. I also took a black alcohol marker and went around the edge of that plywood to kind of black that out because you could see it from the side. Once it was all finished, I took it outside and gave it a good coating of spray lacquer. I really love how this came out, and I think it might go out on our front porch. Thank you everybody for watching and subscribing. I really appreciate everybody's encouragement and love.